a bit more. Alright, well, I want to welcome everybody. So, got yet another big strip today. Taylor's going to check my audio because I'm getting feedback. I want to make sure. So I guess get to hear myself twice, huh? It's definitely happening. I'm not imagining it. It's definitely imagining it. I guess I can live with it. But I am absolutely repeating myself. I don't think that was happening before. So, no, I'm still getting it.
The blindfold. You were hiding from the clouds under a rainbow. Walking through life, slipping on ice, but somehow we couldn't run from each other. I was flying through a storm, the blindfold.
Well, this would be the moment to stop it and reset it up. Alright, so I'm going to be working on inking today. Penciling process is done. And after that, color. It's Tuesday, so here in base comic land, Tuesday's our busiest day of the week. We have, this is usually the day we record our weekly show, Mean Tweets, and we do that in the evening time, so I really try to get this stuff done. I like to try and have a strip out on Tuesdays as often as I can. Get my opacities down. Easier to work on this frustrated character of Taylor. This is how I look most afternoons. What do you think's causing it though? I bet it has to do with my microphone. Yeah, I don't get to do this art stream as often as I'd like. I'd like to do it more. I do enjoy doing it. It's fun working for everybody. This schedule just makes it hard to fit it in. See, you don't have to worry about some of that. It's going to be behind the TV screen that we can all barely see. No, I think Taylor might have fixed my problem here. Sounds like it, thank God. I don't like hearing myself speak the first time. I don't need to hear it twice. Us gators, we're animals of very little brain. And I have all I can do just to keep up with drawing the strip. The technology side is all Taylor. So one of the things I really like about trying to incorporate this strip is having as many expressions, emotions coming through the same character. Try not to just draw the same characters just with the same headshot over and over. I want the character to feel real. Because in my mind, they are real. When I used to read comic strips as a kid, you know, look at like the characters like a Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes, or you know, what would grab my interest is just how those characters could just really come to life on the page, not just be there to be there panel after panel. I think of some strips like Lynn Johnston's For Better or Worse, which is a good strip in its own right, but it's so much more of a soap opera. The subtlety is really to an extreme there. I'm not trying to do subtle. That's for darn sure. You need those glasses to probably pop up this time. Usually these glasses stay behind the hair, but because it's kind of popping up on the head, I'm gonna need those glasses to show up. So to eliminate this hairline right here. Yeah. Well, that's a first, America. This is the first time I think I've shown Taylor with an eye outside of glasses. Always had the glasses on. So you can kind of see, looking at this art, like my pencil drawing underneath is not real tight. I don't have time to make it real tight. It's tight enough so I can read it, but I need to have some tightness. I can't just go straight to inks on 3 lines scribbled down. Notice, like here, technique I use here when I'm working digitally on inks is I'll do the drawing and draw through the line, like so, and then I'll erase the end, and that way I can get a much more perfect line. If you go for like full strokes, like that, you can get a nice tapered straight line. If I try to do it by hand and go slow, it's wavy. And that's the big difference when you're inking. It's kind of the opposite approach from when you're inking by hand, I've learned, which I can do too, though it's been a long time. Something's off there. That's better. Trim that down. Let's pull out a second so we can see how this is going. And yes, this is a Jeffrey Epstein strip. Everyone's talking about it, so why shouldn't we? process of addition through elimination. So I got these extra lines here, and I gotta take these out. Actually, caught myself again. All this is happening behind the TV, so it's really not even gonna show. That's too bad. That happens to me sometimes. Okay, so I'm actually pretty much done with this character. I need to get this one bit of hair in, and need to move on. So her hair comes down over here. Whew, that one was starting to make me go manic. Alright, so we'll turn pencils off here and be able to see. Let me clean up some of my dirty layers and collapse a few things here, and let's see how that looks. Not bad. Looks like I want to. This is the part where I might tweak a few spots now that I take pencils off. But a lot of times I try, it's hard, but I try to resist the temptation to do a lot because you could tweak this stuff forever. Taylor thinks I already spend too long on these things. But this hand here, so you kind of see here, I'm trying to go for variance of line weight. That helps bring more life into the character than if everything was just a uniform line weight. And I'm trying to focus my heaviest lines down at the bottom And I just lightened up these lines here at the top, and that kind of helps to also create that fake sense of weight for the object, which in this case is the arm. If I had all of these line widths equally the same size, then it would start to feel like a flattened piece of art. It just wouldn't have as much of a realism to it, even though it is still just cartoon art. Kind of want just that arm's a little thin, or that hand rather. You can do something about that. What's that from? So see, this is another problem I can get, is I have so many layers, I get lost. Right there. Clamp some of this down. That's a little better. I'm going to put a little bit of thickness down here. Kind of makes it look a little bit like shadow underneath that finger against this, the face. Here. Hey Taylor, can I change? Can I change? One second, guys. I need something else. Let's do I need something a little softer. I'm gonna start putting my head through a wall. There we go. Alright, let's bring this TV back up. So now we can start to see some of the stuff overlaps. So I have to just be able to be aware of what should be in front and what should be behind. Now I could sit there and I could like create different folders, like have my color interspersed and then just color over some of this line work. But I kind of feel like that's even more complication than if I just do some erasing. So we're going to do some erasing. I can generally erase this stuff as faster than I could be clever with it. That's old. So I might need to reduce this. You know, like this black, and I can't really see where the other line is. So if I drop this down some, I actually need to do the whole thing. Let's see. Like so, and it turns gray instead of pure black. But now I can see the opacity is dropped, so I can see much easier now what to erase. Very quickly. Good to erase these lines over, Pambondi. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like to erase Pam Bondi right now. Not literally, but it just seems like there's a growing fervor out there for just wanting something different in that position. Yep, so now you can see that Taylor stands out really well against that window now. I mean, I could even keep that opacity low, and it kind of creates that separation and atmospheric, and I'll do that sometimes in extreme cases if I'm working with a scene, but most of the time I think it's probably better to keep your line work consistent. I'll go ahead and drop the TV before I pull up the other opacity. Let's see. Actually, no, this is not the problem. This is when I have to start deleting off of Taylor. It really kind of becomes a puzzle. Even though I drew all these in, I'm going to have to lose some of these lines immediately. This is overlapping the collar a little bit. Okay. So I'd end up doing these in full color. If I wasn't doing full color, I'd do more spotted blacks because I think that, blacks like have there and there and there. And it just kind of helps with contrast and composition to add that in. But I think ultimately we decided that the strip as a whole just works better in color. So for now, that's the way we're going to do it. I see that. That's a piece of the notepad. We don't want that. So it makes it look like an added finger. Where's that? There we go. Right here. Alright, let's go ahead and work on this Trump guy. So this has been an interesting process for me. Have not been working on adding Donald Trump deliberately into the comic strip, even though I have for Biden. Just wasn't really ready, and I'm not sure I'm still ready. It's kind of a work in progress. Doing caricatures of real figures and stuff is not, I feel like, one of my strong suits. That's why I really like my envisioning of this strip all along was something where I was creating a cast of characters, and those would be what the strip would be about, those characters living in today's political world. And the notion of adding in these other characters like a Joe Biden just kind of felt like, you know, there's so many storylines that were just it was too necessary. It was too easy to just write and try to figure out how to add the characters in, then try to write hard and see how I could tell the same information. Like whether it's, you know, immigration or the auto pen thing that we're talking about, and doing that without adding Joe Biden in. Really hard to sit there and talk about his infirmities without showing him. So anyway, you just end up with now with Donald Trump in office, and needed to figure out a way to just implement him and add him in. So it's a work in progress designing him. And keeping him in the same look and feel as the rest of the strip. That's of primary importance. Okay, so I'm setting up a tree of file folders for this part. Not color yet. Get ahead of ourselves. Inks. This is how I keep myself organized. It's like creating a file cabinet for every single strip. Go ahead and just add this to that. Okay. So a couple of things that I learned in researching Donald Trump, the figure, from a cartooning point of view. At first, I start and I try to more or less just draw him really roughly, more like how he actually is, before I start trying to caricature any kind of parts to him. And I don't really caricature in the construct of what a caricature really is. That would be exaggerating. I mean, if I was really doing a true caricature, I'd be exaggerating all components of him. In some, you know, particularly in political strips, they'll do that. But that's really not what this strip is. But anyway, a couple of things that I found about him is that, one, is the hair. He's got, you know, very much flat hair that just kind of like, it's almost like a table on top of his head. And it really does. It looks less so now, like a toupee, than it used to. Now it's just, he's gotten much older, and it's really, really thin. It's really, really thin, fine hair. So I try to exaggerate that part. So as you can see, I'm going to have that hair really come off. Catch that one wave there. And then something kind of like that. And then the other thing is that he kind of has, he's all neck. So you look at his head, if you look at a photo of him, you'll see that, like, you know, most people's necks taper under their head into the body. They're like a thinner shape, you know, kind of like if you had head, neck, shoulder out like that. That's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is more like squarish head, neck right off to the side into the body. It just it's a continuation of the body, neck into head. So and you can see I'm still kind of exploring even in this stage some of this. And so I also think that, as far as body type goes, it's kind of a large guy. This kind of makes him look a little more muscular than he really is, but he'd probably appreciate that. I do. I just think that part of it is he's broad chested, and I make the legs thinner so that it just kind of fits in the space better. Otherwise, it'd be really hard to fit into a panel of this nature, when you're dealing with comic strips as opposed to comic books, where you have a lot more leeway. So I think that's one of the reasons why, I kind of designed him with a broader chest area and then made the legs much, much more thinner, even though it also kind of makes him look a little bit superhero-like. Again, I doubt Donald Trump would have ill feelings if I made him look like a superhero type body. He's used to getting the exact opposite. I don't really want to make it a habit of drawing presidents into my strip. It doesn't really fit in a sense. I mean, if you look again at the strip, pull out a minute, and you see it, basically the setup is that Taylor is at home and transcribing notes from the information she's been getting over a period of time related to the Epstein story. And then, artistic license in a comic strip, and you have President Donald Trump showing up in her house in the last panel. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it doesn't have to. It's a comic strip, and license is really important. Creative license is important to keep the narrative moving. If you get too focused, like, well, would that be realistic? Is that reality? Then you just can't pull out a narrative in 4 panels. It doesn't work. One of the craziest problems I have, this is kind of a strange thing to have constantly an issue, is I'm constantly forgetting which side men and women button their coats on. And there's a real difference. They don't button their coats on the same side. So, for instance, on men, it's left over right. On women, it's right over left. So I have to keep looking that up. I have to keep looking at images and go like, okay, remind myself what's the right way. But I could easily spend most of a day just on the background aspects of just practicing a character and trying to figure out how I'm comfortable with the way that they can look in the strip. It's craziness, and it's really not something I like to have to put that much time into, but I'm just not that quick wit on trying to get it. some of my lines here. Get this line off, that would be overlapping there. Do I have that color on here? I need to get that off. Prior to this, I've only actually added Donald Trump into my strip twice. The first time was, well, the second time, working backwards, was when he won his second term. And I did a strip where I had him doing the Trump dance along with all the other characters of Base the Comic, you know, so Chance, Dylan, Taylor, Caleb, all the characters doing the Trump dance with him. In that case, I showed him from the back side, and I kind of liked that point of view. And I was worried it was going to kind of look like a cop-out, but I actually kind of really like that viewpoint of just seeing him from the back doing the clunky Trump dance. I don't have to have the face in there like to distract from that moment of the physical comedy of what that looks like. And the first time's even more ironic because I did a strip of him and but it wasn't actually him. It actually turned out to be Elon Musk in a Trump mask, and this is ages ago. This is long before they act. This is about the time when Elon was first considering buying Twitter and the outrage from that. And I was just really doing a comic on the concept of just the liberal left's outrage on how quickly it can foster and develop at any moment's notice against anybody who breaks ranks. And then, you know, all that stuff with like the friendship between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and then Elon Musk being part of Doge, and then the friendship breaking apart, just makes that strip all the more ironic to think about now. You should check it for it in the archive. Excuse me. It goes back pretty far though, so you'd have to go back about 60 strips or so. All right, I need to get this arm in here. See, I feel like I need to put the lapel pin in here somewhere. I might do that a little bit later, but it feels like I need the lapel pin on the collar. Thing is, I'm not positive where it goes. You know what I'm talking about, the one of the American flag. People in government tend to wear. Everybody does this now, Anna. It's not even just us. China does this. They wear label pins of their flag. Everyone does this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just an observation. Everyone does it. Fill that in later. See, the details of that label pin will be so small that it'd be easier to do that just in color itself and not try to draw that in. I have my own cheats for trying to create simplifications of the American flag. Yeah, feels like the pleat is probably a good addition. I saw that one of my contemporaries has started doing a few new strips on his own, which I think is great. Burke Brothered with from Bloom County back in the day. Um, he's been running a couple of brand new strips on ice. He doesn't really do Bloom County anymore. If he does it on his own. And while I don't agree with his notion of how he's portraying like what's going on with immigration, I think it's great that he's back out there doing things with his characters. I don't have a problem with that. And they're really well done strips and they're entertaining. They're not like hilariously ha-ha funny, but I think sometimes people get the wrong impression of what a comic strip is supposed to be, and this idea that it's supposed to just make you fall out of your chair laughing, and that's just unrealistic. It's not fair to just come to that conclusion that that's what a 4-panel a product's supposed to be able to do. Sometimes maybe it could happen, but that's extremely rare. It's more like what you're really trying to achieve with a comic strip is can you create a world that everyone just kind of embraces and falls in love with, and so then they would want to be a part of it. So you look at something like Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Snoopy. None of those strips are really funny. They really aren't. No, that's the groans and the gas of how could you say that, but they're really not. That doesn't mean they're bad. They're beloved because people fall in love with Snoopy being Snoopy. They can see themselves in somebody like a Charlie Brown, and that's why it's successful and always has been. Back to Burke Brothered in Bloom County, though, I think it's, doing comic strips from a liberal point of view is as old as the hills. Doing comic strips from a conservative point of view is less so. It doesn't mean they don't exist, but they just tend to come out more like political comics. And what I mean by that is, like single panel stuff you'd find in like the Washington Post or something like that. Not a comic strip, which is a multiple, which is what you'd find on the funny pages. That's what Bloom County was. It was a comic strip that had social political overtones. And I think it's great that he's doing stuff. And I wish that more people could just see these different strips and see the strip we do with Base the Comic here and not take it so absolutely personally. So that, I end up with things like death threats. You're like, come on, Chance, you're not getting death threats. Yeah, kinda. I used to hate drawing shoes. I'm getting a little bit into my own and being able to draw shoes and be happy with it. Probably gonna speak too soon on that and start having problems with shoes again, but there you have it. Alright, so let's pull off pull back here. Let's take a look at this without pencil. Now, you can probably see I've got everything really outlined and file cabineted so well that I know exactly where I can go to just turn that off. This is the moment where I would probably go back in and see if there's any lines I want to strengthen up. Maybe right here. See how that darkening that line just kind of helps create that level of front to back. Now the hair, I would absolutely going to add more detail work into that, but I'd rather do that in color. I think it kind of feels like I wish that he had a little more forehead. He really should have more forehead. But I think I'm going to let it go. It's something to make a mental note of for next time. Again, I try to think of his head as pretty square. There's my Donald Trump for this time around. All right. Well, I think it's time for me to take a little break, so I'm going to go ahead and end this art stream. But I hope you enjoyed it. You know, Base the Comic is involved in a lot of things. So you can find us in a lot of different places. So we do game streams here on Rumble. Both Taylor and I. We also have a Substack, and we have, of course, this strip that comes out on all social media sources twice a week, at least once a week. Try to get it out twice a week when we can. And of course, our flagship show, Mean Tweets, where we talk about crazy stuff from social media that's really not hard to get, you know. And we do it on a weekly basis, and we talk about like the issues of that week, but specifically focused on like what we can find on the internet, as opposed to just trying to pull TV clips or stuff like that. So you can find us there on Mean Tweets. We have that usually up on Wednesdays or Thursdays. You can find that through YouTube, Rumble, and again through our Substack as well. So again, basethecomic.com, and you can check out all the different things we are doing there. Okay, well, I wish you all a great day, and keep tuning in. We'll be back with more stuff real soon.